Lieutenant Eugene Irwin speaks in a monologue at the beginning of the movie on the idea of a castle, including features like setting, defense, garrison, and a flag that may be raised at the top. But Colonel Ed Winter's high-security military jail is actually housed in the castle where the story starts. On the same day as his trial, Lieutenant Irwin was found guilty and given a 10-year prison term. Winter makes a comment in his office about how Irwin should be recognized rather than sent to prison. Winter is reluctant to accept the new prisoner's housing despite his admiration. The entire prison population, who had heard of the lieutenant's arrest, was waiting to greet him when he arrived. Some of the other convicts thought it was cruel that they were betting on how long the lieutenant would be behind bars. All of Lieutenant Irwin's possessions are seized upon check-in, with the exception of his family photos and academy ring. Winter welcomes Irwin and exhibits outstanding politeness and admiration. When a criminal arrives at the prison, he asks them all the same question: "What do you expect from your stay here?" But the lieutenant just responds with the statement that his main goal is to complete his term and go home. Captain Peretz demonstrates Winter's war collection to the lieutenant as Winter reaches for a book for him to sign. The lieutenant remarks that a guy with such a collection has never set foot on a battlefield. Winter becomes dismayed upon hearing this and sets the book and his enthusiasm away. Irwin observes the restless and boisterous inmates getting ready for bed while they are being abused by many of the cells. The following day, a fight breaks out at the basketball court, involving a prisoner and a big, strong man named Thumper. As soon as the fight starts, prisoner Sam Yates steps in to act as a bookmaker among the participants to choose who would prevail. Irwin observes with interest as all types of security appear unconcerned with the altercation between the convicts. However, just as Thumper appears to be getting the upper hand, Winter sounds the alarm, forcing everyone to take cover by lying on the ground. Thumper is the sole person still standing and is shot from a distance by one of the guards. Irwin then sees Ramon Aguilar, a stuttering prisoner with little lights, being abused by the volatile Beaupre while some sort of winter rock wall construction is being done. Irwin sees Dr. Lee Barnard, a former colleague from the Gulf who is there for having hashish in his possession, at lunch. When Thumper shows up, it is apparent that the rubber bullet that struck him was rubber. An old foe of Thumper shows up and accuses Winter of manipulating their battle by only providing them a basketball that particular day. They inform Irwin that these kinds of incidents are very frequent and have caused mayhem, severe injuries, and even fatalities among the prisoners. Irwin informs them that the situation there is not much different from a war zone and that all he wants is to spend his sentence in peace, which is far from helping. Irwin is visited in his cell by Yates, a former officer and helicopter pilot whose father fought alongside Irwin in Hanoi. Irwin's daughter Rosalie then pays him a visit during his open hours, but he is running late. She mentions Irwin's absence as a parent when she was young and says he shouldn't anticipate her forgiving everything right away during their frank chat. She still wishes him well, and they decide to correspond in writing. Irwin runs into Aguilar in the yard, and she gives him an emotional welcome. Irwin inquires as to his purpose for being there, and Aguilar replies that although he was a former Marine corporal, his bad decision has forced him to remain there. Irwin cheers him up gladly nonetheless. When Winter observes from his office that Irwin and Aguilar are still giving one another salutes, in violation of the directive that they should no longer consider one another as soldiers, he instructs Peretz to chastise Aguilar and order him to hold his salute in the pouring rain. Irwin gets enraged by this and tells Aguilar to stop doing it and to lower his hand. Peretz notices this and orders Aguilar to maintain his raised hand. Irwin was beaten by numerous guards throughout the altercation, leaving him on the ground. Irwin is assigned to haul boulders under the sun the following day after it is decided to punish him for interfering with Peretz in the reprimand during a brief talk with Winter. Yates accepts the wages from the prisoners, and Barnard tries to assist Irwin as best he can by suggesting that he at least remove his shirt. Irwin exposes a number of scars on his back as a result of his military service, some of which are the result of electric shocks during torture. Irwin continues to work for hours while receiving encouragement from the inmates. Beaupre leads him to stumble as he is carrying the final rock, banging his head on the rock itself. Even so, he succeeds in doing his assignment, but Peretz informs him that he must rearrange the rock pile. Erwin is transferred to solitary confinement after the outside period is up. Winter pays him a visit there and says the inmates were punished to learn a lesson. He also claims that whenever he has any concerns, he only needs to glance over the records of the prisoners to be reminded of their purpose for being there. All the prisoners ring their cells as a symbol of respect for Erwin when he returns to his. Yates enters the cell and presents Erwin with a shipment of smokes that he won in a wager thanks to Gyllenhaal, who placed the wager on Erwin's behalf. Erwin phones Gyllenhaal and tells him that because he doesn't smoke, he should take the smokes with him. Yates responds yes when Erwin asks if there has ever been a wager placed on him committing suicide. Yates says that his father used to explain to him how Erwin managed to keep his soldiers alive in Hanoi, but Erwin admits that on that particular occasion, he lost it and was kept awake by his men's cries. Erwin warns the convicts not to be intimidated by the project of building the rock wall when they return to the camp. The convicts then make the decision to destroy the wall. A guard answers Winter's question about who toppled the wall by saying that Erwin inspired the prisoners to do it. Due to the fact that Gyllenhaal's father was a construction worker, they are all able to proceed correctly as they begin to build the wall once more. With all the prisoners cooperating and recognizing Erwin as a leader, the project moves forward, building a better wall than the last one with 18 layers in just 1 week. They also allowed Gyllenhaal to engrave his name as a tribute to his contributions to the construction on one of the rocks. Winter is aware that Erwin is using this newfound camaraderie among the inmates as a means of establishing an army. Prisoners have even developed a code to refer to other soldiers using cover names in order to avoid detection. Winter summons Erwin to his office and brags about how there have been fewer instances of escapes and acts of rebellion while he has been in charge, for fear that the former lieutenant may consider changing that record due to his voluminous wall. Winter then sends a bulldozer to pull down the wall and demoralize the prisoners, but Gyllenhaal blocks the road and the machine halts in its tracks. Everyone falls to the ground as soon as the alarm goes off, with the exception of Gyllenhaal, who stands tall. A rubber bullet strikes Gyllenhaal's head, killing him, after Winter issues an order in the face of opposition. Erwin, in a fit of fury, assigns former Sergeant Major Delwo the task of ordering the inmates to form a line and treating them like soldiers. To hear Erwin's final remarks to the late Gyllenhaal, they all comply with his request. Winter calls them to breakfast at an early hour, and they all break ranks with a salute akin to the military. Winter visits Erwin in his cell, pretending to be saddened by the death of Gyllenhaal, but Erwin doesn't buy it and says it will take more to break them than that. He also says that the other prisoners and he want him to quit because he is a disgrace to the outfit. Winter concedes defeat and offers him a ride to the hole. Erwin invites Brigadier General Jim Wheeler to visit him as a friend after Winter asked him to do so in order to confirm the accounts of his makeshift army. Winter also receives a note from Erwin warning that if Wheeler doesn't resign by that day at 12:10, they would kidnap him. Wheeler informs Erwin that, despite being a prisoner, he has more influence than Erwin because he had already cleared Winter 3 times. To protect General Wheeler, Winter launches a pre-riot operation, but it goes overboard and attacks the prisoners with a water cannon and nearly drops gas bombs on them. In the end, Winter realizes it was only a stall on Erwin's side and gives the order to complete the operation. Winter receives a reprimand from Wheeler, who finds it strange that an inmate could kidnap him. He offers to transfer Erwin to a different prison if Winter requests it, but out of pride, Winter declines the offer. Winter then walks to the prisons and says why Erwin is imprisoned. In defiance of a presidential directive, Lieutenant Eugene Erwin sent men on a mission to Burundi that ended with the deaths of 8 soldiers. Winter demonstrates that they should not put their faith in Erwin's arrogance and that doing so will have severe repercussions for them. Convicts who worked with Erwin are booked and placed in isolation as a form of retribution. Erwin admits that the purpose of the bluffing letter was to learn how the riot squad operates so that the next assault may be planned. Winter gives Yates a private call because he is aware of his encounters with Erwin. In an effort to join the crusade Erwin is preparing, he tries to cut a bargain and get his sentence reduced. 2 of Erwin's co-workers stage a brawl at lunchtime, prompting the guards to remove them from the dining hall and allow the prisoners some privacy to plan their attack. Erwin suggests that by relinquishing control of the institution, he would be in violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They all concur, and Erwin starts preparing them for the assault by teaching them how to dodge barricades, security guards, and helicopters. The training culminates in raising the flag upside down in front of General Wheeler to demonstrate to him that Winter is no longer qualified to hold command. Erwin then makes the decision to speak with Yates and admits that he is already aware of his agreement with Winter. He charges him with not being a loyal soldier like his father and inquires as to the value of his treason. Winter is immediately visited by Yates, who warns him that he won't last long in prison because they are aware that he is the informant. Yates asks Winter to deny his request, but she pledges to keep him apart from the others for his safety. Yates is referred to as a rat by one of the detainees who interrupts the talk. Yates begs Winter for his release once more out of fear and promises to return the following morning with additional information if required. Rosalie sends Erwin a letter in his cell that includes a current picture of her grandson, whom he hasn't had the chance to meet in person. Early in the morning, Winter gives Yates another call and inquires about Erwin's strategy. To Winter's amazement, the flag they will raise is his own, grabbed by Yates during their earlier encounter during the prisoner's interruption. The latter informs him that the purpose is to raise the flag upside down as a symbol of distress. Yates receives a pass to the hole for his double betrayal as a result. In an attempt to locate the lost flag, a disorganized examination of the guards starts. Winter orders all the guards outside only to discover that the exits have been closed as all the prisoners congregate in the central courtyard because he recognizes that this is exactly what they want. Rubber bullets are used during the incident, injuring a number of prisoners. Everyone releases the isolated inmates, including Yates, who joins the cause, and the few outside guards are restrained. With the use of supplies hidden under the rock wall and the help of some of them, who are able to call General Wheeler and notify him of the raid, they launch a counterattack. Erwin publicly declares his ambitions to take over the institution in walkie-talkie conversations with Winter. The inmates produce a catapult they constructed, which will be guarded by a number of other inmates using trays as shields. Winter sends out his anti-riot team and confronts the rebels. The office of Winter is partially destroyed and set on fire when the catapult makes a full impact. Winter notices that the stone that was thrown at him is the identical one that Aguilar had inscribed with his name on the wall. Beaupre decides to battle the guards on the run as the water cannon approaches, but the prisoners succeed in cutting off the water supply to the vehicle, making it possible to do so. General Wheeler calls Winter to inform him of their arrival, and Winter decides to request the reinforcement helicopter. The prisoners manage to press the helicopter so that Yates may board it and take off with the aid of the recently acquired anti-riot truck, which they also use to switch on the water supply. Yates, though, is left dangling from the chopper after the chain snaps. Nevertheless, he is able to gradually ascend to take over. Yates makes the choice to face the guard who shot Aguilar to death with rubber bullets and believes it's time to switch to real bullets. Yates continues to fly while receiving direct hits and gives up the helicopter's tail to destroy the gun turret, killing the guard right there. Yates loses control as a result of this action, and the plane rolls and hits the ground while he is still inside. Erwin moves quickly to save Yates before the chopper catches fire. After the fight, the prisoners form up into military formations to face an irate Winter. He tells the prisoners to kneel down or they will start shooting since they are being surrounded by assailants. Everyone refuses to pay attention until Erwin commands everyone to, with the exception of Erwin, who turns down Winter's plea to give him his flag. He marches to raise it upside down instead. Anger-filled, Winter commands the shooters to start firing, but they all opt to ignore him. Winter tries to find assistance, but Peretz tells everyone to stay still. Winter, fed up with the disrespect, shoots Erwin before hoisting the flag. Winter's gun is taken away by Peretz, who also handcuffs him. Dr. Barnard makes an effort to assist him, but it is insufficient to halt the bleeding. The group then proceeds to congratulate Erwin after seeing that he hoisted the flag appropriately. Even though everything was practically finished, Wheeler's gang shows there to put an end to the mutiny. The film ends with a memorial to the fallen soldiers near the rock wall that includes Ramon Aguilar and Eugene R. Erwin's names.